Good morning. Grab yourself a cuppa, sit down and relax. It's Saturday morning here. Hopefully you've got a weekend off and you decided to tune in to see part 6 of designing a trailer in Blender. I'm just going to jump in at the finished product for today's episode and then look at the various parts. Now we're considering this design next to part 5's design. So if you've been following along, you'll see very many similarities, but a few subtle differences. This design has evolved, almost designed itself. So without further ado, let's open up Blender and see what we've got. Thanks for joining me. Here we are in Blender, that brilliant free program that I use for 3D modeling. So here's our model of a trailer. Visualize that it's hooked up to the car using this common trailer hitch. So what else have we got? We've got an upright with a sheave on the top, a horizontal with a winch handle, some yellow webbing that goes from the winch up around the sheave down to the blue outer chassis of the trailer. The outer chassis is supported on 2 wheels and tyres, 2 stub axles and 2 drop-down links with further axles. The centre spine, which is drawn as a simple plank, but is in actual fact a corrugated W-shaped form, long enough to have the bike fully on when the trailer's assembled and moving. The front end of this spine is resting on an axle which goes across from the right hand side of the chassis to the left hand side. And we'll see that as the chassis sides lift and lower, the front end of the spine follows. But let's see it in action. I'll be using these little play animation controls at the bottom of this present screen to just start the animation going, and it'll carry on going as long as I keep it running. So what are we seeing? We're seeing the outer blue chassis lift. We see the centre spine following the rear axle and lowering to the ground so the bike can be pushed on the trailer. We see the yellow webbing winding on to the winch and lifting the blue chassis. At this point, what we don't see, but we will look closer, is a small pivoting axle or hinge between the green upright and the centre spine. This red axle or pivot point means that the spine doesn't lower as in a previous model design. It just pivots from this centre point. What that enables me to do is to have this whole framework of upright and horizontal solidly attached to the car with this trailer hitch, and the centre spine, although still attached to this area by this hinge or axle, although still attached, it doesn't actually drop vertically to the bed. And so this is a consideration when I mount the wheel chock to the spine. This is a consideration that if I've calculated wrong, and this is too high from the ground to easily push the bike into the chock, then I'll have to further modify it. So I guess we're getting close to a real world mock-up of this, and a Blender World mock-up by bringing in a representative of the motorcycle and the wheel chock, so we can see whether this height is too high, whether this angle is too steep of the spine, and whether the height of the entry of the spine is actually feasible. Pushing it up under power is one thing. Pushing it up dead using just muscle power is a total different concept. For all you youngsters out there below 70, it may not be daunting, but I have to consider it. All my actions are thoroughly considered before I take on any task. Let's have a little spin around while it does its animation. This animation was created by moving a separate object that may or may not be welded to other objects, and then assigning a keyframe to it, and then fine-tuning that keyframe so that things happen in the correct sequence. You can go on and on refining animations. Are things happening in the correct order, the correct sequence? But hopefully this has given you a flavour of the power of Blender, and this is only a tiny part of Blender. And hopefully it'll encourage you to create your own animations and models. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comments section. I like to read comments. It's notoriously hard to get many comments on YouTube. The negative ones are filtered out because our tender egos won't handle too much criticism. But you know what I mean. Just general, which design you might like, ideas for further design. You get the picture. Thanks for joining me on this Saturday morning workshop, where we quickly looked at a finished model for part 6. If you'd like more, then join me again soon, where I'll possibly bring in a reference photo to put behind this model, and we'll try and knock up a realistic looking motorcycle to move on and off the trailer. Thanks for watching. Join me again soon.